Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Kale Miller of Pandora Astrology here in Albany, California, and with me today is Julia
Hey guys, it's Julia Mikas, and I'm joining in from San Francisco, California.
and Natha.
Hi, you guys. It's Natha Campanella, and I'm joining in from Boulder, Colorado.
It's June of 2019, and we're having some really interesting stuff going on in the sky this month around Neptune. Neptune, as you might know, is the planet of mysticism, spirituality, dreams, imaginings, fantasies. It's like a beacon of possibility, pulling us into the world of imagination and out of the physical world. So when Neptune is active in this way, you might feel a little bit more dreamy, maybe a little bit more lazy, just kind of, pulled out of the physical. And it's really important to do extra things to ground yourself when Neptune is this active. I want to show you what's going on, and we're going to talk about it. So here's a chart for June 1st, and you'll see that Neptune is right here in the 12th house in Pisces this month. As it is for 14 years in total. And it's forming a lovely sextile to Saturn up here in the 10th house in Capricorn and a square to Jupiter here in Sagittarius. So, and I want to mark these things. Let's begin with Neptune retrograde, though, because this month Neptune is turning retrograde, which it does once a year and then travels backwards for a couple of months. On the Pandora Astrology website, there is a page about the stations of Neptune. And that is where you can go to find out so much more about how it feels when Neptune is retrograde. And this diagram shows that on June 21st, Neptune is turning retrograde and will be so for several months. So, Julia and Natha, what thoughts do you have about how it feels to us here on Earth when Neptune is retrograde? And what should we be doing during this time?
Well, Neptune, I find, is a very internalizing planet in general. Like people who have really strong Neptune aspects in their chart tend to have a strong internal interior world. And retrograde times can also be extremely internalizing as well. So I think this Neptune retrograde is, really going to make people turn inward in a big way. And, they might get a little overly subjective too, which is what happens when one is a bit too inward, perhaps not necessarily seeing if what's going on the inside is matching what's going on in the outside too.
Yeah, I like that. I think really helpful things when we find ourselves in the midst of those kind of Neptunian things that you just described, Julia, are to really come into contact with water. It can be very grounding.
Oh, gosh,
Drinking
yes.
water, showering, bathing, going into a body of water if you're near it. Because Neptune can be very disorienting. And there's something about, coming into really any of the earth elements, walking outside barefoot or spending time with water or even just with your back against a tree. These can all be things. So if you find yourself feeling a little bit too floaty for your taste, or a little like too, losing touch with the subjectivity versus the objectivity, then it's a great way to support yourself is to just notice that and get outside or get near water.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great solution to Neptune issues in general in natal charts as well. So this month, Jupiter is making a square to Neptune, which is not the first one in their dance this year. And here's a blog post that we put out about what this feels like and also the timing of it. So this Jupiter-Neptune square actually began in January on the 13th. That was their first hit. Second hit is happening here in June on the 16th. And then there's going to be a third hit in September, after which this transit is going to start to fade. I think the Jupiter square Neptune transit is particularly challenging because these two planets have some things in common. And you would think that, As Mae West put it, too much of a good thing is wonderful, but not always. Neptune is about dreams, and Jupiter is about expansion. So when dreams get expanded, sometimes they just lose touch with reality. So this is a transit under which you can have mass delusion. You can have huge sectors of the populace just outright deluded. And it would be, a subject for argument as to which parts of the populace are deluded, because that's a matter of opinion, right? This is a very subjective transit. Julia, what do you think?
Oh, man. Well, also the signs, Jupiter strong in Sagittarius, Neptune strong in its own sign of Pisces. Both of those signs definitely have a mystical bent to them. So I just think of like unbridled religiosity also too. People just kind of gambling away their savings without necessarily having a foot on the ground. Those types of dangers could be implicated in this square. And Neptune has a really funny habit of kind of eroding one's critical faculties is one way of looking at it. So try to seek objectivity as much as possible during this square, I think.
Yeah, what a good idea. Natha, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that, lest we freak everybody out and send them expecting to be dancing naked in the moonlight, that there's also, there can be some really interesting / amazing things that come along with this too. And I think that I always look at Neptune like there's such a spiritual component. And if you find yourself in a spiritual awakening right now, as so many of us are, Jupiter can really, of course, a square in astrology means work. So it's not the ease and flow of a sextile or a trine, but certainly if you're willing to really put in the work on your spiritual awakening, seeking out the teachings that can sort of take you the next few steps on your journey, or really looking at your relationship to spirit as it has been in your life so far. Perhaps you were raised in an organized religion, and you feel like you want to cast some of those deep-seated beliefs away and replace them with things that feel better. Or perhaps you're, starting to want to really enjoy some of the pieces of your spiritual life up until this point and maybe not get so carried away in the dogma. There's so many different ways to approach this particular transit. And so, of course, be aware of wearing your rose-colored glasses to your detriment, but also know that if you're willing to sort of get silent and go inward and really just sort of take stock of like, what is my relationship to the divine like right now? And does it feel good? Do I need to make some changes? I think that this can be a really beneficial time for us.
I love that. Oh, such good stuff. And there couldn't be a better helper than Saturn in this scenario, because right here we have got a very grounded Saturn in its own sign of Capricorn, forming a lovely sextile to Neptune. And over back on Pandora Astrology's blog, there's an article about that, which shows you the timing of it. This began in January also, and is happening in 3 passes, similar to the Jupiter-Neptune transit. Second one being in June, right there on the 18th, shortly before Neptune turns retrograde, and then finishing in November. So these 2 transits are happening in parallel. And it's so helpful that sober judge Saturn is harmonizing with crazy out there Neptune. Julia, what do you think about that?
That sextile from Saturn, that gives me a nice breath of relief, because it just shows, sextiles require a little bit of work. They're not a trine, which just is kind of an easy flow, but it shows that if you support it with a little bit of discipline and you support it with a little bit of realism and pragmatism, I think you can make the most of that square.
Yeah, the Saturn, I think sometimes we hear Saturn and we think, oh no, I don't want Saturn, it's too hard. But Saturn is always really supportive, especially if you, again, are willing to do some of the more mundane pieces of work that a lot of us avoid, that T crossing and that I dotting, but certainly Saturn here is going to really help us pull in the pieces and parts of Neptune that are really beneficial for us.
I think when I look at Neptune, especially in its own sign, and Saturn in its own sign, really all three of these planets are in their own signs, which strengthens each of them to deal with the others. And when I see, Saturn and Neptune like this, I think, dream but also do. Imagine and fantasize and yes, manifest, but also manifest, connect earth and sky, and bring it into physical reality. And so I think that this is, a time for those who dream and do, and for those of us who may have been flying around in the sky because of the Jupiter Neptune square, this can be the grounding that we need.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks for watching this video, and check out the URLs for these web pages that I've shown you. They're in the YouTube information below, and we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.